Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Cherezian Racing. Now, if you guys have not been with us before, we do dirt track racing. This is one car we got at the hobby stock. I got a pro stock out there, and this is a shop we work out of, very small, and we're a budget racing team. But this video is not about racing. This is about anybody who wants to build a small block Chevy or small block Ford. This will apply to a lot of things. If you guys have seen this video posted, chances are my idea worked, but this is my crazy idea. I got this old blown up block right here. It's kind of hard to see with this shadowing here, but yeah, that's definitely blown up. That cylinder wall is taken out. This was a fellow racer friend of mine that lent me this block right here. It's got a big old window in the side of it. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, I build a lot of engines. I'm not an engine builder per se, but I build a lot of racing engines for my cars and friends of my cars that race, and sometimes street motors, you know, hot rod stuff. But if you guys are in the same boat as I am, you build some motors and got an old small block Chevy, small block Ford, whatever, that's 50, 60 years old, and you're putting it together and you're thinking to yourself, hey, these cylinder heads, they look fine, but are they okay? If I put them on the car, are they gonna start leaking? Do they have a crack in them? I don't really know. I'm a budget kind of guy, so I don't want to go to the machine shop and spend the money to get them pressure tested. So is there a way you guys can make a homemade pressure test device at home for little to no money? I'm about to find out. So first things first, this block is what I need to work with. I plan on cutting this deck off. I'm gonna cut about, I don't know, 2 inches off this deck and take this whole portion off so I can bolster the cylinder head. It's gonna take a whole lot of cutoff wheels and a whole lot of beer. So cheers, you guys. Have one on me, but don't bill me for it. All right, so first cutoff wheel, here we go. Before I start this, I wanna say one thing, and that is, as hot rodders and racers, we have a duty to this world, and that is to preserve the older blocks because they're going out of style. I'm telling you right now, these blocks, this is a small block Chevy. This is probably the most popular motor ever made in the entire world. But guess what? They're getting old, and just because they made a zillion of these things doesn't mean there's gonna be a zillion of them around for the rest of the lifetime. So we gotta do a job of making sure that we don't just bastardize stuff that's possibly reusable. So this thing is obviously totally junk, but I had this block over here I was gonna do initially, and it had a stuck lifter in it, but you know, everything else looks good on this thing, and so this could be a potential rebuild. So I'm just saying, you guys, the younger generation, they just want to go ahead and say that everything old is junk. It's not true. Sometimes the old stuff is actually better. They used better metal back in the days. You never know. But we just don't junk shit just because we can. So try to preserve and keep this stuff around for generations to come, so the small block Chevy will never just completely die and become extinct. Just do your best part to keep them around. That's what I'm trying to do right here. And we don't need no caviar and $1 wine. We got cornbread, sweet tea, and Briar Patch moonshine. All right, it's actually going a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be going. That cutoff wheel just goes right through these cylinders pretty easily, so it shouldn't take that much longer. This is still my first cutoff wheel right here, so I'm thinking maybe 2, maybe 3 cutoff wheels will do it. We'll find out. All right, so she's all chopped up. Actually, didn't take that long. This is my second cutoff wheel here. One thing I need to say is be careful with these dang cutoff wheels. As you guys know, they have another nickname. It's called death wheel, and it's because when you're doing a lot of cutting, they heat up. They have the chance of coming apart. So make sure that when you're doing this, you got the right equipment, safety glasses, all that stuff. You know, I'm just saying it to make sure that you guys don't kill yourself and make me liable for it because I told you what to do. But anyways, getting back to this. Pretty much gnarly looking in here, but I think it did the trick. I think I'm real close to popping this baby off, so I'm gonna see if I can get down here and maybe make this last little pop-rooney happen here. Here we go. Look at that, you got a deck plate now. Only 2 cutoff wheels and 3 beers. That's all it took to get this bad boy off here. So got that off, and you guys are probably thinking to yourself, wait a second, how are you gonna bolt that to the cylinder head and make that pressure tester when you have holes here? Yeah, I'm gonna weld those up, and the little steam holes here too, gotta weld up, so that's the next step here. As you can see, my workbench and shop is a total and complete cluster, you know what. But the one benefit of it is I always got scrap pieces lying around for times like these. So I got 1, 2, 3 big coolant holes. I'm gonna have to cut these to shape, weld them in. That didn't really work out too well. And that's those guys, and then the rest are just little tiny holes. And I think I can kind of just fill that in with some bead. On the welding machine, the old buzz box I got here from wrong side, 1992 probably, I don't know, Montgomery arc welder. So I'm not gonna have to get this thing watertight, because what I'm gonna do, weld from the backside, not transfer too much heat, because I still want this guy to be flat. I don't want to start warping it with heat. So I'm just gonna kind of tack weld everything in, and then from this side, I'm gonna go ahead and fill all this in with some RTV and all these holes, so there's no chance of it escaping and weeping out the pressure. Little hot, but that should do it. 2 more to go. All right, so all the holes are welded up. They don't need to be airtight, because this is, number one, this is cast iron, and you can't weld on cast iron. So don't even try to make them airtight. So you can see that they got the plugs in there. I'm just gonna fill all that with some RTV and pack it in real tight. And then I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up. I'm gonna put my straight edge on it and make sure that I'm somewhat level, so this will be useful. Hopefully I didn't put too much heat in it doing this welding, but I don't think I did. We'll see in a second. All right, so I got all the holes plugged up real good with RTV, and I let it dry for a couple hours now, so it kind of tacked up. And I cleaned off the surface with a razor blade real good. And this is an old junky cylinder I had lying around that I know has a crack in it in one of the ports here. So I'm gonna go ahead and test it out. I got this old and pretty good looking gasket, head gasket from God knows when, but I'm gonna put that in between, sandwich it in there, and then I got a bucket of bolts right here with some old head bolts. And I'll go ahead and torque everything down to, I think it's about 65, 70 foot-pounds, and see what she's like. All right, got all the bolts in it, torqued down. It's pretty dang cool to see the undercarriage of this baby, and just see how all the bolts go in, and just the whole design of it's pretty cool. Anyways, you can see all the bolts don't even come to the end of the threads there, so a little bit longer bolt could help out in the future. Something to inspect, you know, if you guys are running something for performance, power adders or something on there, you want as much bolt in the deck as you can get. But anyways, now that that's all settled, the last thing you guys are gonna need is something for these coolant passages right here at the ports. I don't know, this is not the greatest lighting, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, let me flip this baby around. Okay, much better. Anyways, got one here and one there, and that's where the intake bolts to. Water goes this way through the cylinder head and exits that way out of these 2 passages. So the next thing you guys are gonna need to do is make some brackets, some scrap metal or whatever, drill them out so they'll fit, and then I just plumbed in an air chuck fitting there, and the other one is obviously not gonna have anything at all. So I'm gonna bolt those guys on, put a little bit of RTV around this, let it set up for a little bit, and then we'll be ready to pressurize it. All right, so I let this RTV dry pretty good, and I'm about ready to hit it with the air now. And I turned down the regulator a whole bunch on my compressor here, and I'm just kind of double checking here, but I'm taking the air chuck right here that I got, and I'm gonna take a gauge, and I want about 20 to 30 pounds of pressure, I think. Something like that will work, so I'm just gonna go ahead and that was at 20. It's kind of bleeding down a little bit, but anyways, I know there's about 20 pounds in there. I don't want to freaking blow this thing up with 120 pounds of air in it, so let's just see what we got going here. I know there is a problem on one of these ports. That's why this cylinder hits junk. So I'm going to show you guys if we can find it really easily or not. All right, so the sound is kind of deceiving because this air chuck right here is leaking a little bit, but there is a little bit of air coming out right here, and to verify that, all I'm going to do is take some soapy water. There you go. That's the crack. So, if you guys know much about the Vortex cylinder heads, they're a really good head, but they're very, very light on the casting deck surface. They're really kind of thin right here, so they like to crack right in between these 2 exhaust valves on this head bolt, and normally they'll have a little hairline crack coming out of there. So, if you guys are testing for Vortex and you want to see you got a crack somewhere, the most common place is right there, and what I would do is I'd take this guy right here and spray right on that bolt hole. And if you got air coming out of there, then you know something's up. This is actually the coolant. Fast jet is leaking just a little bit, but not too bad. That's just the RTV, I guess. It didn't set up enough in there or something. So anyways, there you go, guys. This thing is dirt cheap. If you just got to buy a couple, you know, fittings here, maybe a couple bolts, and as long as you can find an old junk block that you can cut apart, this will work for you. At least, you know, if you want to get double checked at a real machine shop or something, that's all good and everything. They're gonna actually use water through here. They'll be pumping water through and pressurizing with water, but water is thicker than air. So if you got a leak with air, like I'm finding right here, it's gonna be less of a leak or not a leak at all with water. So, all right. So before I was so rudely interrupted by that stupid Craftsman compressor over there, I was saying that you know, if you got a leak with the water, like at the machine shop, then using my method right here with the air, you're gonna have a much bigger leak. It's gonna be easier to find. So anyways, obviously you're gonna be testing a cylinder head you wanna check and make sure it's gonna be good for a build. You're gonna spray everything down, just make sure you got nothing at all coming out of, you know, the deck surface here, any cracks in between the valves, just little things like that. So you're just gonna wanna hose down the whole thing and look for bubbles, and that's pretty much it. But hope you guys learned something. I sure as hell learned something. I got a tool right here that cost me absolutely nothing. So in the future, I'll be using this thing, and it takes about, what, a whole 5 minutes to set up. So not a big deal. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, if it's bent and ain't broken, use some redneck engineering. Think about something and just do it, you know? Sometimes rednecks, they can be smart. Look at Smokey Eunuch. He was a redneck, but he was a genius. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.